Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive.
Yeah.
This time, we're tackling something a lot of folks are interested in, at least judging by our inbox.
Mm-hmm.
It's photography fundamentals.
Nice.
And whether you're a total newbie or you've, messed around with a camera for a while,
Yeah.
this is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
We're basing this deep dive on a syllabus we came across
Okay.
called Fotografia 3 Elementos.
Oh, interesting.
Now, that might sound a bit intimidating.
Yeah. Is this like advanced stuff?
Not at all,
Okay,
actually.
all right.
It's by a Brazilian photographer, Fabrício Cavalcanti.
Oh, right.
And it's designed to be a 6-hour intensive course,
Oh, wow. Intensive.
but like in a good way.
Right.
It's meant to give you a really solid foundation in photography.
I like that foundation because so much of the stuff you see online is like, here's a cool trick, here's a fancy setting. But it's like you're missing the whole building underneath.
And that's what's so cool about this syllabus.
All right. I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
It doesn't matter if you're using a top-of-the-line DSLR
Hmm.
or, honestly, just your phone.
Oh, so even if someone's listening and they're like, I just use my iPhone, this is still relevant.
Absolutely. Cavalcanti has been teaching photography for, like, over 20 years.
Wow, he must have seen it all then.
And he's known for making even complex ideas really easy to grasp.
Okay, that's key, right? Especially for beginners. Photography can seem so technical.
It can be overwhelming.
Yeah, all the jargon. Like, I know aperture is important, but explain it like I'm 5?
I hear you. And that's where this course seems to really shine from what we've seen.
All right, so let's get into it. How's this 6-hour thing broken down?
So 6 modules total.
Okay.
The first one is Introduction to Photography.
Sounds basic.
But don't let that fool you.
Right.
It's not just dates and names.
Okay.
It's about understanding why photography matters, how it's evolved.
Oh, so like the bigger picture, pun intended, I guess. I bet he talks about some of those legendary photographers, right? Like Ansel Adams, the landscape guy.
I'm sure he does. It's about seeing how those masters shaped the art form.
That'd be cool, like peeking behind the curtain.
But it's also about how photography can capture emotions,
Yeah.
tell stories.
Right, right. Because it's not just pretty pictures.
It can even change the world. Think
Uh-huh.
about powerful photojournalism.
Powerful stuff.
Then we move on to photographic equipment.
Okay, so now we're getting into the gear.
I'm curious to see what he says about different camera types.
Yeah, like is a DSLR always better? When does a point and shoot make sense?
And what about phone cameras?
Technology's come a long way, right?
It really has.
But then there's lenses. Oh boy, that's a whole rabbit hole.
And all those buttons and dials.
It can be intimidating, like you said.
So hopefully he breaks it all down in a way that's digestible.
Agreed, because once you get past that initial hurdle,
It opens up so many possibilities.
it does. Then things get really hands-on with manual camera operation.
Now we're talking. This is where you go beyond auto mode.
Ah, yes, taking control.
This is about ISO, aperture, shutter speed.
The Holy Trinity.
They might sound like gibberish now,
To some folks, they probably do.
but they're the keys to unlocking your camera's potential.
All right, break it down for us real quick. Like, what's ISO even DO?
Think of it as your camera's sensitivity to light.
Okay.
Higher ISO means it can see better in low light.
That there's a trade-off, right?
Usually, yeah, your photos might get a bit grainy.
Gotcha. So it's like a balancing act.
Exactly.
An aperture, that's the one that makes the background blurry, yeah.
That's the one. It controls how much light enters the camera.
So wide aperture, lots of light, blurry background.
That's the idea.
Hmm.
But a narrow aperture keeps everything in focus.
Interesting.
It's all about what look you're going for.
And shutter speed, that's how long the camera sees the scene.
You got it. Fast shutter freezes motion. Slow shutter can create blur.
Like for waterfalls, to get that smooth water effect.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how these all work together.
It's like learning a new language. Suddenly you can express yourself in all these new ways.
I like that analogy.
And speaking of expression, the next module is Styles of Photography.
Oh, this is where it gets fun.
This is where you discover what kind of photography speaks to you.
So, portraits, landscapes, what else?
Street photography, documentary work, you name it.
So it's not just knowing what those styles are,
Right.
it's about understanding what makes them tick.
It's about the thought process behind each shot.
Like what makes a good street photo different from a stunning portrait. Right?
Exactly.
You're not just pointing and shooting, you're making choices.
And those choices reflect your style, your vision.
This is getting me excited to get out there with a camera.
I'm right there with you.
Okay, so we've
Okay.
got the intro, the gear, the manual controls, the styles.
What else could there be?
Well, you got to actually take photos, right?
Of course. Cavalcanti is a big believer in hands-on learning.
Makes sense.
So the next module is photographic practice.
Okay, this is where we get our hands dirty.
There's a guided photo walk involved.
Oh, that's cool.
Imagine exploring your city
Mm,
with a group of fellow photographers,
I like it.
experimenting with everything you've learned.
And getting feedback in real time, I bet.
Exactly.
It's like having a coach right there with you.
Plus, you can bounce ideas off each other, get inspired by different perspectives.
It's like a photography jam
I
session.
love it.
And to wrap it all up, we've got editing and final analysis.
This is where you learn how to take your photos from good to great.
Okay, so this is beyond just cropping and stuff.
It's about understanding how editing can enhance your vision.
I always struggle with that, like how much editing is too much.
It's a fine line,
It is.
but it's a crucial part of the process.
All right, so by the end of this course,
Mhm.
you're not just snapping pics, you're creating them.
You're speaking the language of photography.
I like that.
You're experimenting, you're developing your style.
And you're doing it all with whatever camera you've got.
That's the beauty of it. DSLR, point and shoot, phone.
It's about the fundamentals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we get too deep into the specifics of what Cavalcanti teaches,
Okay.
just want to make sure we're all on the same page here.
About it.
We're approaching this deep dive from the perspective of someone who's just starting out.
Right. Like photography curious, but maybe a little intimidated.
We're going to demystify the jargon,
Mm-hmm.
explore the possibilities.
And hopefully inspire folks to see the world in a new way.
You got it. Who knows, maybe by the end of this, you'll be signing up for Cavalcanti's course yourself.
Now, that would be a testament to our persuasive skills.
Exactly.
But before we go there, tell me more about Cavalcanti as a teacher.
Oh, he seems fascinating.
What's his style like?
Mm.
So Cavalcanti, right? We talked experience, teaching style, but I'm still stuck on that whole finding your voice thing.
Yeah, it's a bit of a buzzword these days.
It is, but in photography, it feels really important.
Oh, absolutely. Like anyone can learn the technical stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but what makes your photos yours? That's the magic.
Exactly. So how does Cavalcanti actually cultivate that in a structured course?
From what we've seen in the syllabus, it's a mix of things.
Okay. Like what?
He definitely has those practical exercises. Got to get the basics down.
Makes sense, repetition and all that.
But then he throws in a lot of group discussion.
Oh, interesting.
It's not just him talking AT students.
Yeah, I was picturing like a lecture hall, but this sounds more interactive.
Way more.
Yeah.
And I think that's key for developing a critical eye, which he stresses a lot.
Right, because knowing what a button does is one thing,
It's just step one.
but being able to look at a photo and say, this works, this doesn't, and here's why.
That's what separates the snapshot from the art.
It's like anyone can learn to play the notes on a piano, but it takes something else to make music, you know?
Exactly. Cavalcanti seems to want his students to understand not just how to take a photo, but why they're taking it.
The intention behind it.
And that ties back into finding your voice, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. Okay, so we've got exercises, discussions. What about that guided photo walk? I bet that's where it gets real.
Oh, I'm sure it does. Imagine you've been in the classroom learning all these concepts,
Mm-hmm. Rules of composition, lighting.
and then bam, you're out in the real world.
Suddenly it's not so theoretical anymore.
Every corner is a potential photo op, but now you've got to make decisions.
Which way to point the camera, what to focus on, all that.
And with Cavalcanti there, he can point things out, offer guidance.
It's like that saying, give a man a fish,
You feed him for a day,
teach a man to fish.
you feed him for a lifetime.
Bingo! It's not about giving students the perfect photo recipe.
It's about helping them develop their own vision.
That makes me think about the editing module, too.
The final one, yeah.
Because that's where things can get really subjective, right? There's
Yeah.
no one right way to edit a photo.
And I bet Cavalcanti has seen some wild stuff over the years.
Oh, I'm sure. From the over-edited to the I'm afraid to touch anything, folks.
But having that guidance, that feedback from someone experienced,
It helps you find that balance between what you want to say and what the photo needs.
it's like writing. You revise and edit, but you don't want to lose the heart of the story.
That's a great analogy. Okay, but hold on. We've been singing this course's praises,
We have, haven't we?
but it's only 6 hours.
True.
Realistically, how much can someone truly absorb in that time? Photography is a lifelong pursuit for some people.
You make a valid point, and it's important to manage expectations.
Yeah.
This course is like a stepping stone, a launch pad.
Not the whole journey.
Exactly. You're getting those fundamentals, building confidence, but then it's up to you to keep going.
Like those training wheels on a bike, eventually they come off.
And you're off on your own, exploring.
I like that. So Cavalcanti's giving you that initial push.
And hopefully, the inspiration to keep pedaling.
Speaking of which, I'm dying to know more about those specifics he teaches.
Yeah, let's get into the nitty-gritty.
Like, what about composition? Does he have a unique approach?
In lighting, what are some of his go-to techniques? Because 20 years of experience, that's got to be a treasure trove of knowledge.
It is. Let's crack it open.
All right, let's talk techniques. Cavalcanti seems really big on composition, which makes sense. It's the foundation of a good photo.
Oh, yeah. Composition is key, but it can be tricky.
It can be. He talks about using leading lines, like a path or a row of buildings, to draw your eye into the photo.
It's like creating a visual journey, right? You're not just looking at the photo, you're being led through it.
Exactly. And then there's the rule of thirds, a classic for a reason.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one. Divide the image into 9 parts, right?
That's it. Placing your subject off-center can make for a more dynamic photo.
But isn't that like a rule you're supposed to follow?
The Cavalcanti actually emphasizes that the rules are just guidelines.
Okay, so once you understand them.
You can break them. That's where creativity comes in.
I like that. It's like learning the grammar of a language. So you can then write your own poems, break the rules stylishly.
That's a great way to put it. And then there's lighting. Can't forget about lighting.
Oh, lighting can make or break a photo.
It really can. Cavalcanti talks a lot about using natural light to your advantage.
So like understanding how the time of day affects things.
Exactly. The direction of the light, the quality, it all impacts the mood.
Like harsh midday sun versus that golden hour glow.
Oh, he's a big fan of the golden hour.
Who isn't? But isn't that kind of hard to, like, plan for?
He shares tips for that. Scouting locations, using apps to track the sun.
So you're not just hoping for the best, you're being strategic.
And he doesn't shy away from artificial light either, using flashes, continuous lighting.
Especially for portraits, I bet.
Definitely. And still lifes, too. It's about shaping the light to create the look you want.
Okay, but what about other types of photography? We've talked a lot about portraits, landscapes.
We have. Cavalcanti covers those in depth, but he touches on other genres, too.
Like what? Give me the highlights.
Street photography, for example, capturing those candid moments in urban life.
Ooh, that's a whole different skill set, right? Being quick, observant.
It is. I bet he talks about the work of Henri Cartier-Bresson.
Oh yeah, the decisive moment guy.
Exactly. Being in the right place at the right time with your camera ready.
It's about anticipating those fleeting moments.
And then there's documentary photography, which is more about telling stories with a purpose.
A bit more like photojournalism.
It can be,
Yeah.
but it's also about capturing everyday life, social issues, things that matter.
I imagine Cavalcanti talks about the ethics of that kind of work.
Oh, absolutely. Being respectful of your subjects, being truthful in your portrayal.
It's powerful stuff. Photography can really change hearts and minds.
It can. So as we wrap up this deep dive into Cavalcanti's course,
Yeah, it's been a good one.
I want to leave you with this question.
Hit me with it.
What story do you want to tell with your photography?
Ooh, that's a good one. It's not just about learning techniques.
It's about finding your own vision, your own voice.
And realizing that you don't need a fancy camera to do that.
Any camera will do, even your phone.
It's about seeing the world with fresh eyes, noticing those little details.
And having the courage to capture them, to share them.
And to keep learning, keep experimenting, never stop exploring.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of photography.
Until next time, keep shooting.